Page 87, interval study in G. That's a mouthful because interval, we need to know what that is. We need to understand what a study is, and we need to know what they're talking about in G. But first, let's take a look at page 86 on these 3 G pentascales. We've been doing a C pentascale. Remember, a pentascale is a 5-note scale. And C was on the bottom, so it's here. That's a C pentascale. Could be anywhere, it's wherever the music tells you to go, but that's a C. Now we're going to go to the G pentascale, which is the same thing, except now G is the bottom note. It's here and here. And it could be anywhere, because there's all kinds of G's. The music tells you which one. For instance, they want you to do on 3 different octaves here. Look at the first line on page 86. You're down here. This is a G. The bottom note on bass clef is a G. If you don't know that, it's time to learn it. Learn these notes instantly. You should know what they are. But you're down here. You don't have to go that fast, but that's where you are. And then the second line, you're on this G up here. And hopefully you know these notes by now. Just know that that D is just right above middle C. And then in the bottom line is the treble clef G up here. Here. So you've got 3 different octaves on the G pentascale. That's what they're doing. Take it your speed, but just keep it slow and make those quarter notes even. Use a metronome if you have to keep them even. I want to talk about this thing on page 87. They sang a new low note, which is the bottom line on bass clef, which I just told you is already, it's a G. Just memorize it. So this is a study. A study is an etude, is a study, a musical study, where you're studying some aspect of technique or theory or something. This is a study in a G pentascale and intervals, both. The interval, remember, is the distance between two notes. We've had intervals of a fifth and a fourth and an octave. Those are intervals. Okay. This is a study on intervals using the G pentascale. So first, let's go ahead and look the piece over. It's 3 lines long, treble and bass clef, 4/4 time, lots of quarter notes here for the most part. Left hand starts it, and they're down here in this G pentascale. That's all you're doing is just quarter notes. But then the third and fourth measure, now it's top note and then an E. So that's a little different. Second line, then you whole note there, and then in the last line you come up here. This is like you did on the previous page, the same places. And then the last 3 measures. Okay, right hand, when it comes in the second line, you're here. It's the same pattern as the left hand. And then a G chord at the end. Remember, a C chord was 3 notes with C on the bottom. A G chord is the same thing with G on the bottom. It's a G chord. Or a 1 chord in the key of G. So a C chord is a 1 chord in the key of C. G chord is a 1 chord in the key of G because it's the first step of the scale. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Actually, there's 7 notes in the scale. I won't get into it yet. We haven't got the full scale yet. But just know that a G chord, and it's the 1 chord in the key of G. Now let's take a look at the interval thing. Interval study. They have them in the 3rd and 4th measure. They got the little lines with the little thing. It's pointing to those 2 notes, and it's asking you what is the interval of those notes. Well, in the first 2 measures, they don't really need to because these notes are next to each other. Remember the interval when a note is next to it's 1, 2. It's an interval of a second. So all of these in the first 2 measures are intervals of a second. But then in the 3rd interval, well, you got the here to here, so what's the interval? We'll just count it. These 2 notes, so you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's an interval of a fifth. And the next one is up here, it's 1 less, it'd be a 4th, and then a 3rd, and a 4th, That's the intervals. I just gave you the answers to all this stuff. And that's the study part of it. You go through, I'd still like to do a play with me here because we want to get as much practice of playing as we can. So I'm assuming you've learned it. There's no big deal. There's no hesitations. You got the hands together because for the most part it's only one hand at a time unless you're playing chord or something. I don't know. As far as articulation goes, they don't give any. So it's up to you. You could play them all connected. You could play them all staccato. Hinge at the wrist. It's good practice. The whole notes you hold out, those aren't staccato. You could play it a combination of both. I could do two notes. There's all kinds of patterns, and if they don't say anything, it's up to you and your imagination. For the purpose of this video, I'm just going to connect them all, and you can have fun experimenting with all the others. Keep in mind, when you're experimenting like that, you're also playing them. You're getting practice at playing them, and it's kind of an extra benefit. Now for dynamics, they give you a swell. You see the first two measures, you have that hairpin, those two hairpins. You go up and go down, that's just swell. We have to figure out where you're at. Well, mezzo forte is where you're starting, and they don't tell you how loud to get. I suggest you just go up to loud and then back down. So you're starting mezzo forte here, however loud you think that is, sort of loud, and you're going to be loud for the next measure. So you're going to go from here to here. You have to plan it out. So each note's going to get just a hair here, and then go back down. If it would help, exaggerate it. Instead of starting out moderately loud, come down to soft and go up to loud. Soft. Do that in both hands. Because you get the swell in the next line too for the right hand. I'll leave the swell up to you. The dynamics are a suggestion anyway, so you can change those as you see fit. Now there is an RIT at the bottom next to the last line, or measure. Slow down a little bit. However fast you're going. Yeah, just slow down. I don't know how much to slow down. You just feel it. Just slow down. Let's do a play with me here, and let's just double check you got all the right notes, because the notes are jumbled up a little bit. I'm not going to do any dynamics, just the notes. It doesn't give you a speed. Steady legato is not a speed. Legato means connected. So if they're going to do that, that takes out the staccato part. Because then you have to connect them. Legato means connect them. Now, bummer. So I'll give us 4 counts, so let's play it together. Now at the beginning of this, because it's only right hand or left hand, if you want to leave the right hand on your lap and then bring it up and measure 4 as you're playing, you bring the right hand up and get ready. It's up to you. You can have both hands up immediately and leave them there for the whole thing. It's up to you, and your teacher will tell you what they prefer. 1, 2, ready, go. Off.